By 3000, every coastline map you know is completely obsolete. Let's be clear, this is not prophecy. This is informed speculation, built on the physics of ice sheets and atmospheric chemistry we are measuring right now. If you fast forward a millennium, the Earth's temperature rise isn't a straight line. It is a chaotic, uneven cascade, and it all starts with the water we have already locked in. Look at the West Antarctic ice sheet. It's not a solid wall. It's a plug holding back massive glaciers, currently resting on underwater islands. As the oceans warm, warmer water circulates beneath the ice shelves, eroding them from below. When that plug fails around the 24th century, sea levels won't creep up. They will jump. We are talking about a rise of 3 to 5 meters in a single century, a rate that accelerates into the year 2050. But that is not the end of the story. Greenland is melting too, dumping fresh water into the North Atlantic, severely slowing the Atlantic meridional overturning circulation, the ocean conveyor belt that keeps Europe warm. Without that warm current, Northern Europe might actually experience a localized deep freeze while the rest of the world boils. It's a climate whiplash Earth. But let's talk about the flooding that cannot be avoided. By the year 3000, global sea levels could be 10 to 15 meters higher than today. 15 meters means the erasure of modern maps. Florida is gone, reduced to a shallow sandbar. Bangladesh becomes an open bay. The Thames and the Hudson are just wide estuaries. But this isn't the end of civilization. It is the largest strategic retreat in human history. We don't just watch cities drown, we dismantle them. By 2040, a massive global dedensification project begins. Valuable architecture is relocated. Infrastructure is reverse-engineered and moved to higher ground. Coastal megacities are either transformed into elevated stilt villages above the high water mark or abandoned entirely to the sea. Which leads to the new coastlines. Old inland cities become the new coastal giants. Denver sits on the edge of a vast inland sea, becoming a major port. La Paz opens up to the ocean. Economic and population centers shift drastically inland, resettling along the Rocky Mountain and Andean slopes. But here is the twist. You can't just uproot billions of people from low-lying deltas without massive friction. The relocation demands a new kind of architecture. Enter the amphibious megacity, cities built on flexible, buoyant foundations that rise and fall with the tides, synchronized with the ocean's breathing. Imagine a network of interconnected hexagonal pods, moored to the seabed by carbon nanotube tethers. These aren't fragile rafts. They are self-sustaining ecosystems, using seawater greenhouses for agriculture, pulling fresh water from the humidity in the air and from shallow underground aquifers. Yet, this inland and oceanic shift puts immense pressure on the continents. You can't rely on rain-fed agriculture anymore. The mid-latitudes are too hot to sustain corn and wheat as we know them. The growing belts have shifted drastically toward the poles, into what used to be permafrost. Siberia and Canada become the global breadbaskets of the year 2090. The melting permafrost released methane, accelerating the initial warming, but eventually exposed rich, steppe-like soil. We are geoengineering the northern latitudes, installing massive subterranean cooling systems to stabilize the ground for mega-agriculture. This brings us to the most crucial part. The carbon we emitted in the 2000s doesn't magically disappear. It lingers in the atmosphere for tens of thousands of years. So by 3000, human civilization isn't just adapting. It is actively trying to re-engineer the atmosphere to survive its own past. The first step is passive cooling. Orbital sunshades, trillions of thin reflective films positioned at Lagrange point 1, strategically deflect sunlight. This doesn't stop ocean acidification, but it buys time, cutting the solar radiation forcing by a few percent to prevent the most catastrophic feedback loops. The second step is far more aggressive: stratospheric aerosol injection. A fleet of high-altitude autonomous drones continuously sprays sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere. It mimics the cooling effect of a massive volcanic eruption. The sky becomes slightly paler, sunsets change, but global temperatures are forced to stabilize. But this intervention comes with a terrifying trade-off. The aerosols damage the ozone layer and alter rainfall patterns. If the spraying stops, we face termination shock, a sudden 5-degree spike in a decade. The planet's thermostat is now in human hands, and we cannot afford to drop it. So why does this matter? Because Earth in 3000 is a managed planet. There is no natural wilderness left. Every ecosystem is a monitored, adjusted garden. We use synthetic biology to engineer coral reefs that can withstand the warmer, acidic oceans, embedding heat-resistant genes into their tissues. We bioengineer forests to absorb 10 times the carbon, creating massive carbon sinks across the uninhabitable equatorial zones. These aren't your grandparents' trees. They are living machines, optimized to fix the chemical imbalance our ancestors caused, turning deserts into engineered jungles. But let's step back and look at where these survivors actually live. The megacities of 3000 make today's largest urban areas look like villages. They aren't horizontal. They are vertical. We are talking about structures a kilometer high, functioning as closed-loop systems entirely independent of the ground below. Materials science makes this possible. We abandon steel and concrete for graphene composites that assemble themselves at the molecular level. These structures are hollowed out, designed to capture wind and generate their own power. They are breathing organisms, resonating with the planet's climate pulse. Inside these megastructures, agriculture is vertical and entirely automated. Every drop of water is recycled. Light is provided by quantum dot LEDs, tuned to the exact wavelengths of photosynthesis. You don't need miles of land to grow wheat. You grow it in 50-story towers, harvesting 3 times a month. Energy is the foundation of all this. Fossil fuels are a distant memory, a dark story told in museums. The grid is powered by a mix of compact fusion reactors and orbital solar arrays that beam microwave energy down to receiving stations on the surface, providing limitless, clean electricity. This abundant energy makes previously impossible tasks routine. We are actively sucking carbon out of the air, turning it into synthetic limestone to build the breakwaters of the new coastlines. We are seeding the oceans with iron to trigger artificial algae blooms, dragging carbon down to the deep sea when they die. Yet, despite all this technology, humanity in 3000 is fundamentally divided. There are the connected, those living in the technologically advanced megacities, and the marginalized, those living on the fringes, surviving in the cracks of the engineered ecosystems, rejecting the grid. This inequality is geographical. Near the equator, the heat and humidity are so high that going outside for more than a few hours is lethal. The equatorial band is largely abandoned, left to automated mining and synthetic biology experiments. Human life is pushed to the poles and the temperate zones. This is where the map of 3000 gets truly shocking. The geographic center of human life is no longer Cairo or New York. It is Reykjavik. It is Nuuk. Massive, sprawling metropolises flourish on the Canadian archipelago, basking in midnight sun during a surprisingly temperate summer. The Northwest Passage is the most vital shipping lane on the planet, constantly traversed by fleets of massive autonomous cargo ships moving grain from European megafarms to the remaining coastal settlements in Asia. The Arctic is the new Mediterranean, the center of commerce and culture. But even in the Arctic, the danger remains. The ancient ice is gone. The Greenland ice sheet is mostly a memory, leaving a barren, rocky landscape where humans now settle along the newly exposed coastlines. The terrain is so alien that our 21st century ancestors wouldn't recognize it. And here is the central paradox of 3000. We survived the climate catastrophe by applying unimaginable power and intelligence. But the cost was the loss of the world we knew. The map is redrawn, not by nature, but by the consequences of choices made centuries ago, maintained by centuries of engineering. So when you imagine the year 3000, don't imagine a utopia and don't imagine a wasteland. Imagine a managed Earth, where humanity is the dominant geological force. The coastlines are moved, the cities are reimagined, and the climate is forcibly stabilized. It is a beautiful, awe-inspiring, and slightly terrifying inheritance. The future map is alien, but it is written by the physics we have today. The water will rise, the ice will melt, and humanity will adapt. The only question is how we choose to write the first chapters of that atlas today, because 3000 is not a distant ghost. It is the logical endpoint of our current trajectory. If you want to see what else the next millennium holds, subscribe and join the journey.